What does this depict?
Another broken lamp.
Okay. And then I've just got a few more left. 1805. And what does this depict?
Wine spill. It looks like the remnants of a wine glass being thrown. And it looks like broken glass.
Do you recognize where this was in the house?
Well, it looks like a bedside table, but I can't be certain.
Okay. Let's go to 1806. All right. Let's let's skip that one and let's go to 1808. Do you know what this depicts?
Wine spill.
Okay. All right. Now, you started to testify about, well, before we go there, in these pictures, would you say they accurately depict the damage that you saw that third morning?
No.
What else, why, how are they not accurately depicting?
Well, if you can believe it, this is it seems significantly cleaned up. There was much more damage, specifically broken glass. On the countertops, there was a lot of broken glass. I could feel it cutting my arms when I was trying to get up, and I could feel it underneath my feet. So I don't know when these pictures were taken, but there's been some cleanup.
Okay. Now, you indicated that that Johnny had turned on your iPhone and recorded. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did there come a time that you discovered a recording on your iPhone from Australia?
Yes, much later. There was this 5-hour-long recording, and naturally I didn't know what that could possibly be, because even though Johnny and I recorded each other often as part of our struggles to figure out our relationship, this one was 5 hours was unusual, and that's when I discovered that there had been this recording of the end of that Australia incident, if you will.
And did you listen to that recording?
I have heard it, yes.
And does it accurately represent what was depicted in that recording?
Yes.
Objection, form, lack of foundation.
You want to approach? I'm not sure. Ms. Berhoff, just could you tell me the number of that the exhibit number, so I,
378.
thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Okay. Amber, you testified that you made arrangements to return home. Can you describe, let's take you to the point you left the Australia house to go to the airport and were accompanied by Ben King. Could you tell the jury what transpired during that period of time?
So I left Australia shortly after that. My understanding was Johnny was in the hospital for his finger, and Ben King was going to accompany me. And on the way to the airport, Johnny calls me, and we were just crying on the phone. He was crying. He asked if it was, if he had killed it, meaning the relationship. It was, I don't remember the exact words that he used, but it was kind of asking me in that way: is it done? Is this over? Did we kill it? Did I kill it? That sort of thing. I don't remember what I was saying to him, but we hung up as I went into the airport. I had a mix of feelings. Nothing really was making perfect sense to me, for sure. And I flew back with Ben. I don't really remember speaking to Ben on the flight.
Do you, when Mr. Depp was, what you testified on what Mr. Depp said to you on the phone ride, were you on the phone with anyone else, or was it just Mr. Depp you were on the phone with?
I only remember speaking to Johnny, and I remember sitting in the backseat of the SUV that had driven me, and we were outside of the entrance where you walk into the airport, and I even then felt torn about leaving. I obviously didn't want to stay, but I was in such shock and
Objection, Your Honor, non-responsive.
I don't know how that's non-responsive.
We're going to ask your question again.
Okay. Please tell us how you felt at that point and what Mr. Depp was saying to you.
I remember
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
She was in the middle of responding to it, Your Honor, and Your Honor said
it was a different question, but I'll sustain that objection if you want to ask a question.
Okay. How did you feel at that time?
I felt destroyed. Like my heart was broken. I didn't know what to do. I thought maybe if I left him in Australia, I thought maybe something would happen to him. I thought he might die or kill himself, because that certainly seems like the trajectory he was on. He told me he had put a cigarette out on his face before, the Friday before, and combined with all the, when I was in the bedroom and he was in the hospital, I found, and I was packing my bags and stuff, I found all these empty bags, Coke bags, dime bags with white residue on them. In them. They were in books, in the bedside table. There were so many that I was like, I wondered how I didn't see it before, even though I had, just gotten there. So I was worried he would die, and I was worried that we couldn't come back from what happened. I was worried that there was just no way to turn this around. There was no going back, but shock.
So you flew out that airport, did you have a stop anywhere before you went back to LA?
Objection relevance.
In a minute, I'll show
Overruled.
it.
Yes, we did. We stopped in an airport. I think it was, we stopped at the Sydney airport from Brisbane, I believe.
And did you have to change gates there?
Yes, we had a short flight to get to Sydney, and then in Sydney, I walked with Ben through the airport to get the next plane, and we passed a newsstand, and I just remember I passed this newsstand, and there was a book on one of the book stands outside of the store, and it had this puzzle piece on it, and Johnny and I used to use that as a term of endearment, puzzle piece, and I saw this puzzle piece on the cover of the book. It got my attention. It said 4 ways to click, a relationship guide. So I bought it, and
Who was the author?
Dr. Amy Banks.
Okay. Go ahead, please continue.
So the book, at least from the subtitle, said it was a book on solving relationship problems. So I bought it, and I read it on the way home.
And why did you buy it and read it on the way home?
Because I loved this man. I loved this man so much. And it was so toxic. And for some reason, I couldn't get him to not hurt me. I could. And it seemed like I was hurting him. But we loved each other so much. At least I loved him so much. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do with this relationship. It was awful and toxic, but it was so important to me, and I loved him so much. I would have read 1,000,000 books.
So when you got back to LA, how long before Mr. Depp came back?
A few days. Johnny came back within a few days. He went to his Sweetser house, the main house, which was what we did. If there was a problem between Johnny and I, we weren't under the same roof once, the fight had either paused or ended, depending. But he would go to Sweetser, and I would stay at the ECB. And so he went to Sweetser upon landing, and there was some conversations with the medical team, doctors and stuff, and I just remember feeling concerned for his life because things had changed, and without saying what they said to me,
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
She said without saying.
She's characterizing it.
Well, I'll overrule for now. We'll see where we go.
I became really, really worried that Johnny was not going to live through this, that there would be infections or problems and things, and he wouldn't stop using Coke, and he couldn't get the surgery he needed because he wouldn't stop using Coke, and they wouldn't put him under because of all the Coke. So,
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
All right, I'll sustain as the
Foundation.
last part.
Okay.
All right, next question.
Right. So when did you next communicate? When did you next see Mr. Depp after you got back from Australia?
I saw him a few days. I don't know how long it was, but it was at the doctor. I think my best recollection is that it was in the doctor's office or around that he needed a procedure.
Did there come a time that you reconciled after Australia?
Yes, because it almost felt like it went away so quickly because there was this surgery that he needed, and there was maybe he had more than one surgery, but it was, like it became very, very about getting Johnny through the next step, getting Johnny home, getting Johnny off the coke long enough to get the procedure done, and then after that procedure, getting another procedure done. And it was just these small steps, and before you know it, we were kind of back in it. With the prospect, of course, of him being done with all the drugs and drinking, because that's what necessarily had to happen for him to have this surgery. So that made me feel a little bit more secure and kind of coming back into this relationship with him.
So I'm going to take you to March 23, 2015, which is a few weeks after, 2.5 weeks roughly after Australia. Where was Johnny staying at this point?
I think he was staying at the Eastern Columbia, at the ECB. He was staying at the ECB at the time because we were kind of in the bedroom together the night of the 22nd, which is when he passed out, how I found his iPad.
I'm sorry, when you...
I found his iPad open. He was texting someone with it open. He passed out, and I saw what he was texting.
Please tell the jury about that.
He was texting this woman that he had a relationship with on and off, kind of at the beginning of our relationship. So I recognized the name, but the date was right after the wedding. I saw it. He had gone to her house after we got married. Like, upon touching down in Los Angeles, I think it was the next day, he went to this woman's house that he has this sexual relationship with. And
What did you do as a result of seeing that on the iPad?
I freaked out. I immediately, confronted him about it. I was, I didn't care in that moment if he did kill me, which was likely in confronting him at that stage of our lives. I didn't even care anymore. At this moment, he had already ripped my heart out. It's like, I've just been through after having been through what I went through in Australia. Just weeks prior, I see this. It was like, unbelievably painful.
So what did you do?
I'm yelling at him. So yelling. I was calling him all these ugly names. I was screaming at him. Told him to get the fuck out of the house. That's what I said. Excuse my language, but we were screaming at each other. At some point, we were upstairs in penthouse 3, and we kind of get into a how do you describe it? Pushing each other, And I just remember being so mad at him for cheating on me and doing so in this way, like right after the wedding. And then right after my wedding, go to see him, and then Australia happens, and it just felt like everything came crashing down, and I was so hurt. Anyway, I break out of his grasp at some point, and I go into my sister's room. The apartments in the ECB are connecting. At least 3 of them are, and they connect from upstairs only. So you could get from Johnny and I's apartment into the neighboring apartment where Whitney, my sister, was staying at the time. And then you could go from that apartment into penthouse 5. Again, still on the top floor. So I went through Johnny's office, which is how you access the door that gets you into Whitney, the neighboring apartment where Whitney was, my sister. And I went in there and woke her up crying, screaming, saying, "What am I going to do? Can you
Objection, Your
believe
Honor,
this?"
Hearsay.
Sorry.
All right, I'll sustain.
I don't know, that was Daubert to prove the truth of the matter.
I'll
asserted
sustain.
In any event. All right.
Sustain the objection.
Okay, so you went to Whitney's. Don't tell the jury what you said to her, but what happened next?
Johnny comes into penthouse 4 and grabs me. I don't know why. I don't know what he was doing, but at one moment I I'm aware that my sister's somewhere nearby, and I thought about that. I just remember thinking about that, and he. I remember getting kind of free from Johnny, and he left, or he walked out of the room.
When you say free from Johnny, what, if any, connection did you have? The physical connection before that?
Well, I mean, I'm, trying to stand up for myself, and Johnny would, at that stage in our relationship, he would just throw me, shove me, hit me in the face. I mean, it was just like all I could do is just try to fight back, or try to not get more hurt than not doing anything would have certainly left me. I don't really recall specifics. I remember at one point he had his uncasted hand in my hair, and I was looking at the carpet. I don't know what happened immediately after that, but I remember he left. He was out of the room for a while. I don't know how we got into, I think I heard him in P5. Again, this is the neighboring apartment of that. So there's P4 in between, and P5 is the corner. And that apartment was empty, basically. And so I used it, the top bedrooms, the bedrooms on the top floor as my closet, and I had all these clothing racks and shoe racks and stuff like that in there. And then it had another level, the mezzanine, which is it hung over the rest of the bottom floor. And I used that as my office. And the bottom floor is, of course, the living room with just some sparsely decorated, just some big couches and a low table. And I I hear him in penthouse 5. And on the lower level also is another painting studio, like painting area of mine. So I go in there because I hear him, and he's screaming, but I don't know why. I don't know who he's. My understanding was he was screaming at me, but I wasn't in that apartment. I could hear him, and when I heard him, I came into penthouse 5, and I have to go down the stairs, and I went down the stairs to the mezzanine level where my office was, and I could see him and a security guard and Debbie, the nurse, and he was sitting on the sofa when I first walked into the room, and he kind of stood up. He was drinking Red Bull and screaming at me, and Debbie came up the stairs because I'm screaming back at him. She came up the stairs, I think. And while she came up, I'm supposed to kind of comfort me. And while I was up on the mezzanine floor, Whitney came down, and he threw the Red Bull can up at me, certainly, but it kind of either hit or narrowly missed Debbie. And I said I called him a pussy, and said something about, I'm screaming at him angrily. I at least called him a fucking pussy. I don't know what else I said, but I was screaming at him because he threw this can at me and everything else that had happened. And when I did that, he bolted up the stairs. And, there's only, he was up the first flight of stairs. Again, I'm on the mezzanine, which is in between two flights of stairs. He bolted up the steps. And I don't know how he managed to get his hand in my hair so fast, but he had his hand on the back of my head, my hair, and kind of was yanking me down and hit me in the face with this cast he had. I just remember this brief struggle we had before we kind of break away. Whitney, my sister, all of a sudden put herself in between Johnny and I. She just threw herself like in the line of fire or whatever. She just all of a sudden was there and was trying to get Johnny to stop. Her back was to the staircase, and Johnny swings at her, and I just see my little sister with her back her back to the staircase, and Johnny swings at her, and I don't even wait for any other, I don't hesitate, I don't wait, I just in my head instantly think of Kate Moss and the stairs, and I swung at him. In all of my relationship to date with Johnny, I hadn't landed a blow. And I, for the first time, hit him. Like, actually hit him. Square in the face. He didn't push my sister down the stairs. And all my time of being in that relationship to that point, hadn't even landed one on Johnny. Sure, I had tried to fight back, threw my arms, flailed my arms, hit whenever I could to try to block blows myself, but never landed anything. And Johnny kind of looked stunned and then laughed at me and then lunged at me again. And before I know it, security stepped in between us and pulled Johnny away. And I went upstairs with my sister, and we locked the door, and I could just hear all this commotion happening in Penthouse 5. I could hear him raging, destroying my things. I could hear it. And at some point I saw it the next day.
Tell the jury what you saw the next day.
All my clothing racks were toppled over, shoe racks toppled over, thrown down the stairs. Desk, everything on my desk wiped off. Just it looked like everything that he could touch, he tried to turn over, destroy, smash, But my clothing racks, these huge, heavy clothing racks full of clothes, there was at least one of them he threw down the stairs. The rest were toppled over.
Amber, I'm going to fast forward to December 15, 2015. Were you and Mr. Depp together at that time?
Yes, we were.
Did you have a fight that night?
December 15th, yes, we did, but I don't recall. I don't recall what started the argument. we had had periods leading up to that were really beautiful and really good, and then periods that weren't.
Well, let's talk about the December 15, 2015. What do you recall of your fight that night with Mr. Depp?
I remember him chasing me in the kitchen. I remember throwing something in his direction to slow down his momentum. I remember him screaming. I remember him getting on top of me at some point, toppling me. Mostly at that moment downstairs, he was hitting me in my face. Again, this is another example of when I wish so much I could tell you an exact sequence, but I can't. It's flashes. So I'll tell you what I do remember. I remember at some point trying to flee upstairs, and we had he got a hold of me and I got free, and I managed to get all the way up the stairs almost. I was on the last flight, and we'd had some interaction where I think I said something to him on the stairs. It might have been broken up, and I think I said something on the stairs, and I just remember how quickly he shot back up those stairs and grabbed me by the back of my hair, my head, and slammed his hand on my head. And I went down on the stairs, and he overtook me. I remember him so well. I remember his boots and the sound they made. I remember him grabbing my hair, my head, and kind of dragging me up the stairs the rest of the way. He dragged me into the room that those stairs open into. It's like a salon foyer area. And we had this argument that kind of, was a shoving match that I was losing. By the second or third shove, he sent me toppling over this chaise lounge, like a little low-lying sofa seat, and I hit my head on the brick wall. There was an exposed brick wall. I remember I stood up, and I remember Johnny asking me if I wanted to go. And he did that thing where he's like challenging me. He said it in that way, challenging me to stand up and get back up. And when I did, he said, "Oh, you really want to go now, tough guy?" Shoved me back down. "Oh, you really want to go, huh? Oh, you're so tough." I stood back up again. This time he hits me in the face. I stand back up and look him right in the eyes. And it was just a really still moment. I'll never forget it. Really still. I stood up and he said, "You want to go again, tough guy?" And I just looked right at him, just looked right at his face. And he balled up his fists, leaned back, and headbutted me square in the nose. Just right as I stood in front of him. I was a foot from him. Just slammed me right in the nose. Instantly, searing pain. It's one of the few memories I have in this long relationship that I actually remember the physical pain in that moment, just searing. And I remember thinking, you have your hands free. I had time to think. You have your hands free. You could have hit me with your hands. Why did you headbutt me? I told him that night I was going to leave him. I went through his office to go into the other room where I kept all my stuff. We had another struggle. He overtook me. I was trying to hit him off me. I was trying to get him to trying to get his body off of me, and he was just pummeling me. I don't know how else to describe what I was. I went down to the floor. I remember being on top of me, and he's screaming and swinging at me while I was on the floor. He had me by the hair and dragged me the rest of the way from the office into the neighboring room, the neighboring apartment. I remember the door that connected these two rooms had a metal grate, not a grate, but a metal bottom, metal floor that separated it. It's a big, heavy bank door. And I remember he was dragging me, and I removed my hands from my head and kind of tried to grab onto the metal door to prevent him from dragging me into the room. But I couldn't stop him. He dragged me all the way from that carpet. I was trying to get free of his grasp. I was trying to stop him from pulling me. I remember feeling the carpet and the metal. And he drags me up to the bed, throws me down onto the bed. It kind of wrestles me down onto the bed. And he kneels on my back with one leg. And I was trying to fight him off me because I was face down on the bed top. And he wrestled me down, kind of trying to hold me down with his knee on my back. And he's punching me with a closed fist, punching me repeatedly. And I don't remember even feeling the pain. I just remember the sound of Johnny's voice. He got next to my ear and he was screaming over and over and over again. Each time it sounded louder and more desperate. I fucking hate you. I fucking hate you. I fucking hate you. Over and over. Fucking hate you. And then pounding the back of my head, pounding it with his fist. And I don't even remember feeling pain. I just could hear myself scream until I couldn't hear myself anymore. I could just hear him say that he was going to kill me. And that he sounded like an animal in pain when he was saying that he fucking hated me. He sounded like he was almost crying, or something in his voice was different. He sounded different, he sounded like he was in agony. It was high-pitched and loud. And I don't know how many times he just hit me over and over and over again. And I got really still. And it felt in my body like quiet. And I thought, this is how I die. He's going to kill me now. And I'm not. He's going to kill me, and he won't even have realized it. I couldn't breathe. I remember trying to scream, and I couldn't scream. I was suffocating in this pillow top with him holding me down, punching me over and over, and I don't have any memory after that until I woke up.
When you woke up, was there anyone there?
I remember hearing my best friend's voice. I felt like it came, felt like it was like on a speakerphone, like it came from everywhere. I just heard her voice in a weird way. It felt like it was coming from two directions. And I realized that I was sitting on the edge of the bed, on the carpet of the floor, against the broken frame of the bed. And there was a low-lying bed with a really thick wooden frame. And it was broken from his boot trying to get a purchase on it while he was...
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
I could feel it.
Overruled.
Thank you. Please continue.
I was there for it. And while he was on top of me, I could feel that. I could feel him trying to get balance. I could feel him slipping. I could hear it. I don't know how I got off the bed. I don't know what happened to me from the time I stopped hearing myself scream. I don't know what happened to me. It's a really weird feeling because next thing I remember is leaning against the broken part of the bed and on the carpet, and my friend saying, "Oh my God, oh my God."
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
Sustained.
Okay. Go ahead. And without
And then
hearing what Rocky said.
I eventually, she called the Nurse Erin. She got something out of the freezer for my face. She did a concussion check with Erin on the phone. I thought I probably had a concussion, and certainly thought I had a broken nose. There was blood everywhere, blood all over those pillows. My head was bleeding from the ripped out hair, chunks of hair on the floor all over the place, actually. It was just all over the apartment. He, after leaving me, had written on the countertops in Sharpies.
Michelle, I'm going to ask you to bring up Defendant's Exhibit 510. Do you recognize this photograph?
Yes, I do.
And does it accurately depict the scene portrayed?
Yes, that's the next day, I think.
Your Honor, I'm going to move the admission of Defendant's Exhibit 510.